The rain hadn't stopped all night. A single dad drove home from his late shift when he saw a small figure sitting alone by the bus stop. No coat, no bag, just trembling hands. "You lost, sweetheart?" he asked softly. She didn't answer, only clutched a stuffed bunny and whispered, "I can't go home." He brought her inside, gave her soup, and promised she'd be safe till morning. But the next day when the news came on, he dropped his coffee. Her photo was on the screen under the words, "Missing Child." Mark Taylor had learned to function on too little sleep and too much coffee. At 38, he'd spent 3 years as a single father to Ellie, his 10-year-old daughter, after his wife Sarah died from cancer. The night shifts at the auto shop weren't ideal, but they paid better. And Mark needed every dollar for Ellie's school, her activities, the future he was trying to build from grief and determination. Their modest house was cluttered with evidence of their life together. Ellie's drawings covering the refrigerator, half-finished bedtime stories on the coffee table, the comfortable mess of people actually living rather than just existing. Mark had learned to braid hair from YouTube tutorials, to cook edible meals from online recipes, to be present even when exhaustion pulled at him like gravity. This Tuesday night followed the familiar pattern. Work until 11, the quiet drive home through empty streets, looking forward to checking on Ellie sleeping peacefully. Rain had been falling steadily since dusk, turning roads slick and visibility poor. As Mark passed the closed convenience store near the highway exit, his headlights caught something that made him slow. A small figure sat on the bus stop bench. A child, maybe 8 years old, hunched against the rain with no coat, no backpack, no adult anywhere nearby. Just a little girl in a thin shirt and jeans, clutching a stuffed bunny, completely soaked. Mark pulled over immediately, heart hammering with concern and the automatic calculation of worst-case scenarios. It was nearly midnight. No buses ran this late. No child should be alone in the rain. He approached carefully, not wanting to frighten her. "Hey there, sweetheart. You lost?" She looked up with enormous eyes, face pale and frightened, and didn't answer. Just hugged the bunny tighter, water dripping from her dark hair. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. My name's Mark. Do you know where your parents are?" She shook her head slightly, then whispered, "I can't go home." Mark felt cold that had nothing to do with the rain. "Why can't you go home?" "I just can't." He knew he should call the police immediately, should let professionals handle this, but the child was shivering violently, clearly had been sitting in the rain for who knew how long, and Mark couldn't make himself leave her there while he waited for authorities. "Okay, here's what we'll do. You come with me, get warm and dry, and we'll figure everything out in the morning. I have a daughter about your age. You'll be safe, I promise." She studied him with the assessment of someone who'd learned early to evaluate trustworthiness. Whatever she saw in his face made her decision. She stood on unsteady legs and followed him to the truck. The drive home was silent except for the girl's chattering teeth. Mark cranked the heat, gave her his jacket, talked gently about nothing consequential, his daughter Ellie, their dog Buster, how he worked fixing cars, anything to make her feel less scared. At home, Ellie woke when they arrived, appearing in the hallway rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Dad, who's that?" "Someone who needs help tonight. Can she sleep in your room? Maybe borrow some dry clothes?" Ellie, with the generous heart Sarah had nurtured, didn't hesitate. "Of course. I have extra pajamas. And you can have my favorite blanket. It has stars on it." Mark made soup while Ellie got their guests situated, then brought it to them with crackers and the kind of gentle care he'd learned from Sarah. The girl ate slowly, methodically, like someone who wasn't sure when food would come again. "What's your name, honey?" Mark asked softly. A long pause, then, "Mia." "Mia, that's a pretty name. Do you want to tell me what happened? Why you can't go home?" Tears filled her eyes, but she shook her head. "Not tonight." "Okay, not tonight, but tomorrow we'll figure this out together, all right?" She nodded and before falling asleep beside Ellie, whispered, "Thank you, mister." Mark sat in the hallway outside Ellie's room for a long time, listening to two children breathing peacefully, and prayed silently for the first time since Sarah's funeral. That this child had just gotten lost, that there was a simple explanation, that morning would bring clarity rather than complications. Morning sunlight filled the kitchen, making everything feel less ominous than it had in the rainy darkness. Mia sat at the table eating pancakes while Ellie chattered beside her about school and friends and the hamster their class kept. Mark watched them, noting how Mia gradually relaxed, how color returned to her face, how she even smiled once at something Ellie said. But he also noticed other things. Small bruises on her wrist that hadn't been visible last night, the way she flinched when he raised his voice slightly, calling Buster inside, the careful way she positioned herself so she could see both doors, like someone who'd learned to always know where the exits were. After breakfast, Mark called the local police non-emergency line. "I found a lost child last night. She's safe. Just need someone to help locate her family." The dispatcher asked routine questions: description, approximate age, any identifying information. Mark answered what he could. Mentioned Mia wouldn't give her last name. Explained she seemed frightened but physically okay. "We'll send someone over within the hour," the dispatcher promised. While they waited, Mark let Mia and Ellie play in the living room. They drew pictures together, Ellie showing Mia her favorite characters, Mia drawing surprisingly detailed flowers and butterflies. Their laughter felt genuine, unforced, and Mark thought about how easy it was for children to find connection, how they hadn't yet learned to complicate kindness with suspicion. Then the television, left on news in the background, flashed an Amber Alert banner. Mark glanced over casually, then froze completely. The photo showed a little girl with dark hair, wearing a blue coat, clutching a stuffed bunny. The description matched Mia exactly. 8-year-old Mia Rodriguez, missing since Sunday evening, last seen near Interstate 94. Believed to be abduction. Mark's coffee cup slipped from nerveless fingers, shattering on the tile floor. Both girls looked up, startled. Mia saw the television, saw her own photo, and her face went white. "Ellie," Mark said carefully, keeping his voice steady despite his racing heart, "take Buster outside for a minute, okay?" "But Dad, please, sweetheart, now." Ellie recognized his serious tone and obeyed, though she cast worried glances back at Mia. Once she was outside, Mark knelt in front of Mia, keeping his voice gentle despite his racing heart. "Mia, that's you on the TV. People are looking for you. Your family's looking for you." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I don't want to go back." "Why, sweetheart? What happened?" She was shaking now, words coming in gasps. "There was a man. He took me from the park, said he knew my mom, but he didn't. He kept me in a house. I escaped yesterday when he went to the store. I ran and I got on a bus, but I didn't have money, so they made me get off, and then it was raining, and I didn't know where to go." Mark felt rage rising, not at Mia, but at whoever had hurt this child, had made her so frightened that even rescue felt terrifying. "Did he hurt you?" "He was mean. Said if I tried to leave, he'd find me again, that nobody could keep me safe." She looked at Mark with enormous, pleading eyes. "But you will, right? You'll keep me safe." "Yes," Mark promised, not sure how he'd keep that promise, but knowing he'd try. "I will keep you safe." He called 911, explained the situation properly this time. Within 20 minutes, patrol cars filled his street. Officer Grant arrived, an old friend of Sarah's who'd known Mark for years, and took command of the situation with professional efficiency. "Mark, this is serious. The girl's been missing 3 days. The kidnapper's still at large. You need to let us take her into protective custody." "She's terrified," Mark interrupted. "Look at her. She's finally feeling safe. Give me a little time to help her understand she's not going back to that monster." Officer Grant studied Mia, who was clinging to Ellie's hand while other officers set up in Mark's house, and sighed. "Fine. 1 hour. Then she goes to social services where they're equipped to handle trauma cases." Mark nodded, grateful for even that much time. They spent that hour together, all three of them, with Mia gradually understanding that safety meant more than just Mark's house, that there were systems designed to protect children, that her mother was desperate to see her. Mark explained gently, Ellie held her hand, and slowly Mia's terror transformed into cautious hope. While officers conducted their work, Mark noticed something that made his protective instincts surge. A black sedan parked across the street, engine running, driver watching the house. Not a police vehicle, not a neighbor's car, just sitting there, observing. Mark walked to Officer Grant. "That car, black sedan across the street. How long has it been there? Grant looked, then spoke into his radio. Run the plates on the vehicle across from 2847 Maple. Minutes later, plates are registered to a Daniel Cortez. He's got priors, assault, attempted kidnapping, active warrant. Everything happened fast after that. Grant ordered backup, but before units could respond, the sedan's door opened. A man stepped out, mid-40s, wearing a maintenance uniform, carrying flowers. He approached Mark's front door with the confident stride of someone who belonged. Mark stepped outside, positioning himself between the man and his home. Can I help you? I'm Mia's uncle, the man said smoothly, smile not reaching his eyes. Daniel, I heard you found her. Thank God. We've been so worried. Her uncle. Yes, her mother's brother. She must have wandered off while visiting me. Kid got confused. You know how it is. Mark did not know how it was. What he knew was that Mia had described being kidnapped, that this man had priors, that everything about his body language screamed wrong. Well, Daniel, the police are handling the situation. You should speak with them. I'd really just like to see my niece. Make sure she's okay. The man tried to step past Mark. Mark blocked him. That's not happening. Officers will contact you through proper channels. The smile vanished. Look, friend, I appreciate you helping, but this is family business. Just let me see the girl. No. They stared at each other, tension crackling. Mark was bigger, but he saw calculation in the other man's eyes. Assessment of whether Mark was worth the risk, whether he could overpower him, how much trouble it would cause. Officer Grant appeared in the doorway, hand on his weapon. Mr. Cortez, I'm going to need you to step away from the residence. Daniel's eyes flicked between Mark and Grant, and something cold settled over his expression. I'll be seeing you, he said quietly, then retreated to his car. The sedan pulled away slowly, and Grant immediately radioed for pursuit. All units, be advised, suspect vehicle heading south on Maple. Consider armed and dangerous. Do not let him reach highway access. Inside, Mia had heard raised voices. She clung to Ellie, trembling. That was him, the man who took me. Mark knelt beside both girls. He's gone. Police are catching him right now. He can't hurt you anymore. He said nobody could keep me safe. He was lying. Look around, Mia. There are 6 police officers in this house right now. There are more chasing him. There's me and Ellie. There are so many people whose job it is to keep you safe. And we're all here because you matter. Within an hour, they got confirmation. Daniel Cortez had been apprehended attempting to flee. The house where he'd kept Mia was located. Evidence recovered. He'd be charged with kidnapping, child endangerment, violation of parole. Social services arrived, a kind woman named Patricia who specialized in trauma cases. She explained gently to Mia that she'd go to a safe place, that counselors would help her process what happened, that her mother was waiting to see her. Mia's mother. Mark had almost forgotten. This child had a family desperate for her return. But when the time came to leave, Mia cried, clinging to Mark and Ellie. I want to stay with you. Please don't make me go. Mark's heart broke. Sweetheart, your mom has been so scared. She needs to see you're okay. And these people, they know how to help kids who've been through scary things. They're going to take good care of you. But you made me feel safe, and you'll feel safe again, I promise. Patricia's going to make sure of it. Mia pulled away slightly, reaching into her pocket. She handed Mark the stuffed bunny, worn, clearly beloved. So you don't forget me. Mark accepted it with shaking hands. I could never forget you, Mia. Never. They watched her leave in Patricia's car, Ellie crying against Mark's side. Officer Grant stayed after everyone else left, sitting at Mark's kitchen table. You did good, he said quietly. Kept her safe. Helped us catch a dangerous person. Sarah would be proud. Mark looked at the bunny in his hands. I just gave her soup and a bed. Anyone would have done the same. But they didn't. You did. That matters. The next days brought intense media coverage. Local mechanic helps rescue kidnapped child. Complete with Mark's photo and quotes he didn't remember giving. People recognized him at the store, thanked him at the shop, wanted to shake his hand. Someone started a fundraiser. The mayor wanted to give him an award. Mark declined everything except a quiet acknowledgement in the local paper. He wasn't a hero. He'd just been someone driving home who noticed a child in the rain and couldn't drive past. But life had changed in ways Mark was still processing. He and Ellie talked about Mia constantly, wondering where she was, how she was healing, whether she remembered them. The bunny sat on their living room shelf, impossible to ignore, a reminder of the night everything shifted. Ellie had nightmares for weeks, dreams about lost children, about bad men, about not being able to help. Mark held her through them, talking about bravery and how sometimes the scariest thing was caring about people who might get hurt. But we still have to care, Ellie said one night. Right? Even if it's scary? Especially if it's scary. That's what makes it matter. 3 weeks after Mia left, a letter arrived, forwarded through social services. Child's handwriting, carefully printed. Dear Mr. Mark and Ellie, thank you for making me feel safe. I'm learning to draw like Ellie now. My counselor says I can write to you if I want. I wanted you to know I'm okay. I live with my mom again, and we have a new house with good locks. I think about you every day. I told my mom about the pancakes and how Ellie shared her blanket. She says you're angels. Love, Mia P. You can keep the bunny. She'll keep you safe too. Mark read the letter 3 times, vision blurring with tears, then carefully placed it in a frame. He hung it above his workbench at the shop, beside the photo of Sarah he kept there. 2 reminders of love and loss and the importance of showing up. Mom would have been proud of you that night, he told Ellie one evening as they looked at the framed letter together. Because we helped someone? Because we didn't look away. Because when you saw someone who needed help, your first instinct was to share your blanket and make her feel welcome. That's exactly who your mother raised you to be. That's her legacy living on through you. Ellie studied the bunny on the shelf, worn and loved and impossibly precious. Do you think Mia's okay? Really okay? I think she's healing, and healing takes time. But she's brave, and she has people helping her, and she knows there are safe places in the world. Sometimes that's all we can give people. The knowledge that safety exists, that kindness is real, that they matter enough for strangers to stop in the rain. They developed a routine of writing back to Mia monthly. Nothing heavy or therapeutic, just updates about their lives. Ellie's school projects, Buster's latest antics, the changing seasons. Mia wrote back sporadically, her letters gradually becoming longer, more detailed, showing a child regaining her voice and learning to trust again. Mark kept every letter in a box beside Sarah's things, documenting Mia's recovery through her own words, watching her handwriting improve and her stories become more confident. The shop where Mark worked gave him a raise, not because of the publicity, but because his boss said anyone who'd help a stranger's child like that was someone he wanted representing his business. Mark used the extra money to donate to organizations supporting child victims of trafficking and abuse, turning one night of kindness into sustained commitment. One letter from Mia mentioned she was working with a therapist who specialized in art therapy. She helps me draw my feelings, Mia wrote. It's better than trying to find words for scary stuff. I drew you and Ellie and Buster. My counselor says it's good to remember the people who helped me. Mark showed that letter to Ellie, and they had a long conversation about emotions and healing and how there were many ways to process difficult things. Sarah's cancer had taught them about grief, about the long, slow work of accepting loss. But Mia's survival was teaching them something different. About resilience, about the human capacity to heal, about how one person's decision to care could ripple outward in ways impossible to predict. People are stronger than they look, Ellie observed with wisdom beyond her years. Like Mia. She seemed so scared that night, but she'd already escaped from a bad man and survived being lost, and now she's drawing her feelings and learning to trust people again. That's really, really strong. You're right. Strength isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's just getting up every day and trying again, like you've been doing since Mom died, like Mia's doing now. The months passed. Fall turned to winter. The bunny remained on their shelf, a constant presence in their daily life. And Mark found himself talking to it sometimes, telling it about his day, about Ellie's achievements, about missing Sarah, about hoping Mia was okay. It was silly, probably, but it made him feel connected to something larger than himself. The letters continued, Mia's handwriting improving with each one, her stories becoming more detailed and hopeful, her trauma gradually transforming into something she could live with, rather than something that defined her completely. She sent drawings, photos of her new dog, updates about school and friends, and the slow process of building a normal life after extraordinary trauma. And through it all, Mark and Ellie sent back their own stories, maintaining the connection that had started on one rainy night, proving that family wasn't always about biology, but about choosing to show up, to care, to remember that every person matters enough to stop for. On Christmas Eve, Mark and Ellie were decorating their tree, a modest Fraser fir that leaned slightly but smelled like childhood and hope. They'd established traditions over the years since Sarah's death, small rituals that made the holiday manageable, specific ornaments hung in specific places, carols played in specific order, cookies baked from Sarah's recipes. Ellie hung ornaments while Mark strung lights, and they worked in comfortable silence, broken occasionally by shared memories. The bunny sat on the mantel watching over them, and Mark had long since stopped feeling silly about including it in their family traditions. A knock on the door interrupted their quiet celebration. Mark opened it to find Mia standing there, with a woman who had her same dark eyes and a man whose hand rested protectively on both their shoulders. Behind them, Patricia from Social Services smiled warmly, clearly having facilitated this reunion. "Surprise," Mia said, then launched herself into Mark's arms before he could fully process what was happening. He caught her automatically, overwhelmed by the solid reality of her, no longer the terrified child from that rainy night, but someone stronger, healing, present. "Mia, what? How?" "We moved nearby," the woman said. Mia's mother, clearly, with the same determined expression Mark had seen on her daughter. "Patricia helped us relocate after everything. We wanted a fresh start somewhere safe, somewhere with good memories. Mia insisted we come visit you before Christmas." Ellie appeared, shrieking with joy, and suddenly both girls were hugging and talking over each other in the way only children who'd bonded through crisis could manage, their friendship picking up exactly where it had left off months ago. "Can they stay for cookies?" Ellie begged. "Please?" "We made so many cookies. We have the ones with frosting and the chocolate ones, and the ones with the jam in the middle." Mark looked at Mia's mother, who nodded permission with tears in her eyes. "We'd love to, if it's not an imposition." "It's not. It's perfect." They spent the evening together, two families connected by trauma transformed into something like hope, something like healing. Mia showed them her art therapy drawings, bright and colorful despite their sometimes dark subjects. She talked about her new school, her new friends, the rescue dog they'd adopted who helped her feel safe at night. "I told everyone about you," Mia said to Ellie seriously, "about how you shared your blanket and taught me to draw and made me feel like I wasn't alone. You're my hero." "You're mine too," Ellie replied with matching seriousness, "because you were brave when really scary things happened. You escaped and survived, and now you're helping other kids by being honest about what happened. That's the bravest thing ever." Later, as they decorated the tree together, Mia noticed the bunny on the mantel. "You kept her." "Of course. She's been keeping us safe, just like you said she would." Mia retrieved the bunny carefully, holding it like the precious thing it was, then placed it beneath the tree. "She should be with family for Christmas. That's where she belongs." Mark watched the girls hanging ornaments, Mia's mother and stepfather sitting on his couch drinking coffee and talking quietly with Patricia, and felt something he hadn't felt since Sarah died. Complete. Not because his grief was gone, or because everything was perfect, but because he'd learned that grief and joy could coexist, that tragedy and grace often arrived together, that opening your door to someone in need sometimes brought healing you didn't know you needed. Snow began falling outside, soft and steady, muffling the world in quiet beauty. The tree lights twinkled. The bunny sat in its place of honor, and two families who'd been strangers shared cookies and laughter and the particular magic of choosing each other. "Sometimes family isn't who you're born with," Mark whispered to Sarah's photo on the mantel, positioned so she could see everything. The tree, the children, the life continuing in her absence. "It's who finds you in the rain, who chooses you, who you choose back." Ellie overheard, leaning against his shoulder. "Like Mia?" "Exactly like Mia. A single night of kindness can change a lifetime, for both the lost and the ones who choose to stop and care." Sometimes being a hero just means noticing someone in the rain, offering soup and a safe place to sleep, promising that morning will bring clarity and hope. Sometimes saving someone is as simple as refusing to look away when everyone else drives past. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is open our door to a stranger and trust that love, in whatever form it takes, is always worth the risk.